what do you do at Pokémon International?
Sure. With Pokémon Company International, I am a production manager of the media production department. I was originally brought on to work on original content in the forms of animated web series, and have since rotated into managing 2 video editors for marketing and PR videos, as well as like retail, social, online, things like that, and special projects as well.
Oh, that's cool.
There's any non-video, yeah.
So how did you find out about your job?
My supervisor is someone I've worked with in a couple jobs before now, and he told me about it. So definitely it's good to network and build strong relationships when you get into the workforce.
That's good.
The company has a culture that is, there are some parents in another country, so there's competing cultures going on. And it doesn't really like to embrace the American way, especially the current modern American way, which is to really empower and trust your employees. Mm-hmm. It's more about hierarchy and layers and approvals and keeping the machine going rather than doing what's right for the brand and the company. It'll vary depending on what's going on. So we announced within the past few months the next iterations of Pokemon Sword and Shield. Oh, yeah. And that was a big driving factor of projects, and will be creating videos to support that. We make videos depending on what's coming out, rather than necessarily making original stuff to keep the brand alive and in people's minds in the zeitgeist. So there can be times where there's only like 1 or 2 projects going on, and there are times where there's 5 or 6 projects going on, and going on is within a given month or so. And you ask the day-to-day, get in around 9:30 or 10. If it's Monday or Tuesday mornings, there are meetings at 9:30 with folks in London. We have our Seattle office, and we have a London office as well, and a couple scattered elsewhere. The rest of the week, more flexible. I have daily stand-ups with the 2 video editors at 11 a.m. That usually lasts 5 to 10 minutes or so, depending on how many projects there are. Then work until 5 or 6 or so, depending on if I have an activity at night. Y'all are sophomores, juniors?
We're juniors, yeah.
Are you doing, so it's the end, you have like 2 months left. Have you done all your knowledge tests and everything?
We started that, but we're just diving in slowly.
Yeah. SATs. Do you have to take, is the ACT still a thing, or is SAT
He's taken
where it's at?
ACTs.
Yeah, so mainly around our area it's SAT, but we have the option to like take ACT as well. So I've taken both just to like see.
Yeah, that's good. Was it like SAT is more the coasts and ACT is more Midwest or so?
I believe so.
Which test did you take?
I took both of them. I took the SAT before it was 2400, so back when it was 1600. And I got a perfect math and not the best on writing side.
Any tips for the math section?
Memorize. It's tough because math was one of my fortes, where it was just like less about questioning it and just kind of accepting that math is what it is, and it does certainly help to have an understanding of where the formulas come from, like basic multiplication if you want to. I don't know, I'm not too familiar with Common Core. I think I learned a similar one where you do the square but you break it down in different ways. Just understanding like what are the patterns within math and how to recognize that. But more complex formulas, something beyond the quadratic equation, I couldn't really tell you. School is great for memorization and building habits and learning social skills to network, but it's also great to learn life lessons ahead of time and like figure out how to game and cheat the system, because that's real life.
How much would you say like your school experience affected your work experience? Like how you got to where you are?
Yeah.
Let's see. high school, I did really enjoy high school, and how that segued into college, I was able to test out in math. Great. I went to USC, University of Southern California, and I was originally pre-declared print journalism. It was much cheaper back when I went. It's not like 60 plus K, or it wasn't. Oh, yikes! I'm so sorry that your tuition expenses are so much now. Yeah, I was originally print journalism with USC, and then I remembered I don't like the news because it's written so poorly and it's just sensational. I like entertainment news. Dropped that. I was going to minor in Japanese. Decided to make that a major because it's a liberal arts degree, and liberal arts undergraduate doesn't matter at all. So I minored. I was going to minor or have a double major in German with Japanese. Realized that's too evil, and decided to switch it to marketing. Sorry, minor in global marketing. And then I was part of a multimedia program that was understanding how to weave narratives into different mediums, matching form and function, things like that, in order to either evoke experience or story. I was also involved with the school's TV station for a little 2 years and worked on the school's newspaper for 4 years in the DVD and video. It was originally the section I was the one that introduced DVD reviews to it. And that was fun because I became probably the only named college contact for DVD reviews for major movie studio PR contacts. How I was able to take East Asian languages and culture, aka Japanese, and transfer that into the business professional world? No, because my first job ended up being a production intern with Disney Feature Animation, where I was in video games. Yeah. I did appreciate studying Japanese for giving me a different mindset to see how an Eastern approach can apply to the Western world. Really definitely back nicely with studying German in high school, because having those 3 languages going on in the mind was able to see reality in a different way. And now that I'm back to only English 99.9% of the time, it's a more quiet thought process.
That's good.
And funny, so I am, now that I'm working for a Japanese company with Pokémon, there are instances where it comes into play, but for the most part, not really. To twist that a little bit, it's nice, regardless of what you study, if you know what you want to do long term, then you have a specific field that you want, then your experience will probably be different. But if not, regardless, try and find sense from whatever you're doing, whenever you're doing it. And the sooner you can learn that skill, the better. You probably want to know about writing.
Oh yeah, I wanted to be a video game script writer.
Okay.
It's a little rare and out there.
Yeah, script writer. So script is in coding or narrative?
Narrative.
Okay.
It's narrative, and I'm more like actual coding.
Okay. And
I'm just looking for like an interior design major, so I'm looking into an interview for that too. But this is good stuff to know. So.
okay. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Writing. Do you write in general, or kind of think from a story perspective?
Yeah, I do write often in like a journal, just like random thoughts I have. But I also like reading and watching video game gameplay, like the different narratives. Yeah.
Good. So yeah, you're familiar then with more, let's say, a plot-centric game like Uncharted versus something that's a little more experiential.
Yeah.
Are there specific kind of questions that you have regarding the approaches or the mentality? I mean, I can just say words, but if there's something that you want specific help figuring out, that is a good starting point as well.
So I understand that it's a hard industry, especially for someone like me to like try to come into, considering a lot of people want to do the job as well. Just how do I stay mentally strong and just keep pushing through?
That is great question. One of the good life lessons to learn is not to take things personally. For me, it took a long time, and I'm still learning it, that I can't control everything. And even when I think I can control something, odds are I can't. It's still outside of my reach. So for me, trying to get over issues of frustration and control was one of the things that took a long time. And part of that was just learning to let go, learning to recognize that sometimes it's someone else's company and they're going to structure it in a way that they think is right, even if it's not actually the best way to go about it. And from a person-to-person standpoint, a lot of people have a tendency to just project their own realities onto others. They might say things in a way that is more reflective of them than it is of you. There might be a kernel of truth to what they're saying about you, but odds are it's them speaking about them, and they don't really know you. So what they're saying can only be applied so much, and that can piggyback nicely into when you are writing something creative. Not to take all, or when you're doing anything creative, if you're doing acting, performing, interior design, if cooking, what a person's feedback is more a reflection of them than it is necessarily what you're doing. Being open-minded to feedback is a great skill to have and definitely a great way to live life. But being able to translate what they're saying with what's actually an issue, whether it's their end or your end, is a skill to... That didn't entirely answer your question. How to embrace and deal with that. Persistence and patience are very good. Having that mindfulness to recognize you versus them, being able to breathe and to constantly try, because it's more about the success than it is about failures. Keep trying, because this is all a skill-based world currently anyway.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if you're not already hearing this, you'll probably hear it soon. You've got to prove yourself in order to have the opportunity that you want. It's very rare that someone's just going to be like, I'm going to take a chance on you, even though you have potential but are unproven. It's very unfortunately rare for that to happen. So, network and socialize as much as you can. Learn, have a positive attitude. I mean, I can just keep mouthing off platitudes, but...
But I do appreciate it, so thank you for helping me out.
Of course. My experiences in life have been a little bit different, so for better and worse, even though everyone experiences complications and challenges, opportunities.
So what was the most difficult thing you had to overcome, and how did you do it?
Ooh. That's
sorry.
good.
Deep questions. I'm sorry.
No. I like existentialism and philosophy. But I'll phrase it this way. Becoming aware of bad habits and then actually changing them. Find your bad habits, figure out what's not serving you, and then, for me, recognizing what helped turn it around was recognizing that there was always an excuse to do it. And that meant that there's really no excuse. So I'll change the topic to frustration. I grew up where my expectations were different than reality. I expected more from myself and from others than was actually what was presented and what was real and tangible. So that disconnect would cause me to be constantly frustrated in life. And this would be like playing soccer in school, or dating, grades, pursuing something creative, wanting opportunities at work. And what helped me, I'm still working on my frustration, but part of what's helping me with that is the mindfulness element of breathing and catch myself being like, wait, what are my emotions? What am I going through right now? Am I actively choosing to experience this, or am I doing this out of a bad habit or some sort of lizard brain flight or fight? And growing in that awareness and building the skills to make active choices. It's an area I'm still working on, but that mindfulness has been very helpful. That's the thing. Like, if you have any bad habits that you know of, it's what I've learned is that it's fine to embrace them. Like it's impossible for me to go through life with perfect 100%. It's already not going to happen, or it already hasn't happened. And it's not. So recognizing me that failure and challenges are going to happen. I'm not always going to get my way. That's fine. But being able to better control myself and recognize what is serving me and what's not serving me, habit-wise, skill-wise, life choices, that can be very helpful. How are your writing habits now? Or I guess, how are your habits? What are the habits that you're going on through right now to pursue the things that you're interested in, whether it's writing or interior design?
Does playing video games count?
It can.
Okay, because I have a lot of hours logged on multiple games.
Although, are you playing them with a critical lens?
Definitely. I'm trying to look more into like aspects that could cause issues. Say I'm playing this one game and like I keep running into this bug.
Yep.
Or like issues, like I want to make sure I can have some look out for it. Maybe if I try to game test for code.
Are you looking purely from a technical standpoint for glitches, or are you looking at it from the from other angles as well?
I do tend to use the glitches to my advantage, because
Nice.
of course.
Yeah, but I mean, like, are you thinking of it holistically? Of here is the entire video game. Like, here's all of Skyrim. Am I going to be concerned that an arrow is planted in someone's head and they're still alive? Or am I going to be thinking about what is the... And yes, that will break the immersion experience of it, but like what else is going on in the world that really... What's the driving factor of the game? And is this glitch getting in the way of it, or is it an acceptable glitch?
Well, yeah, of course. I'm not like super picky down to that point. Like, I would like to correct it, but it's not like an issue if the whole game runs fine, as long as the whole game is there.
The way first of all, I suck at video games, but the way I play, or at least try to play video games, is I look at it from almost like a literary perspective, as in I try to look at different aspects of how they wrote it and what it could mean down the line, like picking up on signs of foreshadowing and the like tone of the characters. And that's one of the great things I like about video games, is that they portray that aspect really well, that a lot of movies, in my opinion, don't do. So that's kind of what attracted me more towards like the video game industry than script writing for like movie industry. So yeah.
I'd love to hear you elaborate a little bit more on that.
As in me reading.
The difference between games and movies with regards to like characters, tone, cohesiveness, things like that, the experience of them. And if either of you are also able to talk on this, I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts.
I feel like I kind of know what you're talking about, because like with movies, you're able to see expressions and the way that they're portraying themselves and the way that they, establish foreshadowing and everything. But with video games, you only really have their voice and their words. So I feel like the influence that the words have is actually more important, rather than watching a movie where the emotions are more important. Like maybe what you're I don't know. That's just what I.
Along those lines as well.
Personal takeaway.
Yeah. For video games, they give you like a set dialogue and like character traits for that person, and then you get to be able to go into the game and play as that character, and you kind of take on that role. You have like this more connection to the game because you have the ability to move the character and do what you think would be best for them. Well, of course, there's like quest, like set tasks, but you could like get sidetracked and like break a pot or something, and just like have fun with it as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, for myself, video games, I do love becoming the character that is portrayed. But then there's also like other games, say, as well, you're working on Pokemon series. Your character is usually mute. So instead of being like forced into a role, you can become who you want to be. You're not forced to be some high schooler in like some weird city. You're able to be a Pokemon master. Well, if you can defeat the Elite Four, but like I sometimes struggle with that.
So what do you think about the whole video games and movie contrast?
Yeah, there's definitely more to the experience of video games than there is with movies because you have player control factoring in. That's an extra level of storytelling that just will not be present in movies. Like you can't do BioShock as a film.
Yeah.
Because BioShock is all about the gameplay being the story. You could use a plot that's similar. I'm trying to think of any movies that have done something like that.
There's an attempt with Assassin's Creed.
And like, what was it?
I'm not as familiar with the Assassin's Creed games.
What was it? Video games.
Video game movies.
There's Lara Croft.
Oh, there was that really bad Super Mario one. That was like before our time.
Bob Hoskins and I can't remember his name. John Leguizamo as Luigi. I actually rewatched that last year, and it takes a lot of creative liberties, but it has a fun charm to it. It'd be great if you're full. Movies versus TV. It's you're growing up at a great time for video games because it's much more sophisticated than it was for me. The peak of art growing up for me was something like Shadow of the Colossus in 2004 that was really more experienced show that 2005, whenever it was. The video games can be more than just here's an action side scroller or here's a platform jumper, here's a puzzle game. But I guess for going back to your question of movies versus games, it's finding fun gameplay, because that is the core of video games, and then figuring out the right creative wrapper for it to present some sort of story or experience that you want. And you can do this in a very straightforward way. Like I play on my phone Marvel Puzzle Quest pretty often, and there's a story to it, but I don't care. I skip right through it because it's more about the gameplay of the match 3. Well, on the topic of in video games, you can have a very plot-heavy structure that's going to be much more tolerable. For example, like Resident Evil games, where it's like, find the jewel, get the key to unlock the chest. The chest contains another a photograph. The photograph you have to place in a corner of a painting to unlock a secret room that contains a gun that you plug to a wall, things like that. If you were to do that in a movie, it would be boring. Movies that are very basic in their plot structure aren't as fun, even if the basic plot of most movies is similar. But you have something like, did you see Scott Pilgrim, the movie? I have not.
I haven't either.
Okay. Based on a manga that's very inspired by video games. It's basically a boss battle movie. Scott Pilgrim has to fight 7 evil exes in order to be in a relationship. Spoiler: grow as a person. So there, like, you have a plot that works. But you have something else. I'm trying to think of something more recent. Ready Player One.
Oh,
Did you see that?
yeah, I've watched it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I heard that it's very different from the original book.
Ah.
Yeah, I have too. I thought it was okay. It wasn't bad.
I thought it was good.
There's entertainment to it, and it's technically well made because it's Spielberg, but the script leaves a lot to be desired. It has very basic plotting. You have a central character who is just the most generic, perfect white guy you can have, who falls for this basically manic pixie dream girl, gamer girl who he's been stalking, and he's just instantly in love with her. Like, what is this story? And it's full of references. It's so ingrained in nerd culture that it ends up by the end satirizing it a little bit, or like calling it out to not always be in the video game world, to live in reality more. But
Yeah.
that feels like a tacked on scene and message at the end, as opposed to the whole the rest of the movie that's like, look at how cool this world is. You can control the entire world by playing a video game. And then they say at the end, oh yeah, but don't do that. Like, go spend a couple days outside each week. Like, that's not how you give a message.
Yeah.
You don't beat something up, glorify it, and then take it down.
Yeah. Thought it was kind of funny how cliche the plotline was, but I think that's what made a lot of people like the movie, is because, you know how movies follow like a really cliche writing, and you notice it in almost every movie, and you're like, oh, watch this happen. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll take, do you watch the Marvel movies?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. And you've probably seen how a lot of them are the same.
Yeah.
Yep. Kid gets powers, kid beats up whoever. Yeah. Things.
Woohoo.
Imagine if they actually had tried to be creative in those movies.
I think the graphics make up for it. Like.
Yeah.
They're pretty. They are very pretty movies.
Well, anyways, we're running a little short on time, so
Yeah.
do you have any final advice you'd like to give us before we go?
Yeah, from a writing perspective, I'm sure that you have whatever styles and genres that you're passionate about, and by all means, keep embracing those and studying those and analyzing those, but also expose yourself to stuff that you normally wouldn't. Trying to get those different lenses, and as much as you can, learn different languages and absorb those different mindsets. Being able to take those influences from outside and bring them in, rather than having a purely insular perspective, is going to be much stronger and more innovative and creative than simply doubling down on what's already. Do any of you watch anime at all?
Yes. Guilty.
I'm worse than her.
So you probably heard how just insular anime was for a long time. If not, it still is. There's a lot of creativity to it. I love that you can have you can make a show about someone making bread. You can make a show about someone figure skating, playing tennis. It doesn't matter. Like, they will make a show about it, which is really cool. But they have a lot of so we are anime, and the people who are making anime now grew up on anime, and they all consume anime. It's like, you're not going to innovate by doing more of the same. You innovate by learning new, bringing that in. So as much as you can, expose yourself to those different lenses, expose yourself to those different languages and mindsets. Study multiple languages if you can, underlying philosophies, because the language that we use shapes our reality. And in terms of the writing itself, as you're consuming, think critically, but also be able to just turn your brain off and enjoy and embrace what it is rather than what you want it to be. It's a skill that takes building, working on habits. If you can get into finding the joy of writing yourself, that would probably be the biggest strength you can have in terms of writing. Find what works for you, rather than in general just find what works for you and try and maintain that as much as possible. It might be helpful to read articles like, hey, I'm creative, I like to stay awake until 2 a.m. because I do my best work after midnight. But if you struggle with that, that's that. That's not you. That's fine. If it works that you have a writing partner and you touch base for an hour once a week, and that habit keeps you going, do that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Our bell just rang. So thank you so much for the interview. We really do appreciate it. It was nice talking to you.
Sorry for the.
Likewise, and I'm happy to answer any more questions, or if you want to schedule another one, you can do that too.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.